Welcome back to Weird NASCAR Rumors. It's hard to believe that the series has reached episode 15. Today, we're going to be talking about a year that several of you have requested, 2014. Leading off, we have a couple of big rumors about Roush Fenway racing. In 2014, Roush was a team on the decline. It lost Matt Kenseth to Joe Gibbs Racing the year before, and had gone from a 5-car powerhouse in their peak to a 3-car team with a driver lineup of Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, and a young Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Of course, Biffle and Edwards were both proven winners, but in 2014 it looked like Roush may lose both of them. Let's start with Greg Biffle. I've often thought about making a video on all of the Biffle free agency rumors that just never came true over the years. There were a lot. And in 2014, we had another one. This time, the big rumor was that Biffle was going to Michael Waltrip Racing. MWR had dropped from 3 cars down to 2 following the Spingate fiasco that ended with the loss of Napa's sponsorship and Martin Truex Jr., and the team was pretty much an upper midfield operation in 2014, far from the team that had brought Clint Bowyer to a runner-up finish in the championship just 2 years earlier. In April, Biffle had said that he was getting close to signing an extension with Roush, but by May that seemed less certain. By that time, Biffle was saying that there were plenty of opportunities in competitive cars and that he had options. And then Darrell Waltrip made things awkward for his brother. During a live pre-race show, Darrell sat next to his brother Michael and suggested that Biffle was going to be heading to a 2-car team that may have once had a 3rd car, which obviously was an exact description of Michael Waltrip Racing. Michael quickly deflected by saying that he thought Carl Edwards would be leaving Roush and Biffle would be staying, but suddenly the rumor was out there. A few days later, it seemed like Larry McReynolds may have been asked to help do some cleanup work when he said that he had heard there was a possible deal for Biffle to go to MWR, but it just couldn't come together in the end. This would all come to an end in July as Roush announced that Biffle would be a part of their 2015 driver lineup. Honestly, I don't see Biffle going to Waltrip as a good fit. Roush may have been on a downward trajectory, but MWR was falling faster and would be gone entirely at the end of the 2015 season. I don't think that Biffle would have saved the team, and it probably would have ended his career a year earlier if he had gone. With that said, it was Biffle's teammate Carl Edwards who actually would move on from Roush, and have some pretty interesting rumors to go with his free agency. But before we get to that, I want to say a quick thank you to this video's sponsor, Shocks. I've told you about my love for audiobooks before, and Shocks headphones are my favorite way to listen to them. Their bone conduction headphones have been a total game changer for me, whether I'm listening to music, podcasts, or books. They use bone conduction technology, which means they don't actually go in your ears. Instead, they sit just in front of your ears and use vibrations to send the sound through your bones and straight to your inner ear. Because there's nothing in your ears, you can be more alert to your surroundings without sacrificing any audio quality. Also, you don't have to deal with earbuds that are constantly wanting to fall out of your ears when you're moving. These headphones stay in place, making them perfect for running, working out, or any other physical activity. And I've got a promo code for y'all. Go to shocks.com and use promo code ROUGH at checkout for $5 off of your order. These headphones have been a big upgrade for me, and I'm sure you'll love them too. And check out the links in the description if you want to be taken straight to the headphones that I got. Now, on to the Carl Edwards free agency. Okay, let's talk about Carl Edwards' free agency and how there was talk that he could be taking the Candyman title away from Kyle Busch. Unlike Greg Biffle, it was pretty clear that Carl Edwards was going to be leaving Roush from the get-go. Roush and Ford had needed to put up a serious fight to keep him the last time his contract was up, and it wasn't going to work this time. And the idea that he could be kept in a Ford and moved over to Penske was quickly denied by Roger Penske himself. Apparently, Edwards actually did tour Richard Childress Racing's shop, and it was reported that he had turned RCR down. But RCR's team president claimed that the conversations between Edwards and the team were just informal talks. But it seemed like everyone knew that Edwards was destined for the 4th Joe Gibbs car. The biggest question was, who would sponsor the car? Well, in mid-June, Motorsports.com reported that Edwards could be driving the M&M's car at Gibbs, and Kyle Busch's longtime partner and current Ty Gibbs sponsor Monster Energy would be stepping up to sponsor Busch. Would this have meant that Edwards would be driving the 18 car and Busch would be switching to the 54 that he had been driving in the Xfinity series with Monster? I don't know, but the thought of anyone other than Kyle Busch driving an M&M's car in the mid-2010s is certainly strange. Over the years, there have been driver-sponsor combinations that seemed like perfect matches, like Dale Earnhardt and GM Goodwrench, and other ones that seemed odd, like Casey Kane and Budweiser. I'm honestly not sure where a Carl Edwards and M&M's pairing fits in on that spectrum. I want to say it would be a pretty good fit, but it definitely would be a weird one. The rumors surrounding M&M's moving from Busch to Edwards were put to bed within a few days by JD Gibbs, but it would be another 2 months before a deal for Edwards to move to Gibbs was officially announced, in spite of it being the worst kept secret in the garage area at the time. Much like everyone knew that JGR had signed Matt Kenseth just a couple years before, but they took forever to announce it. Or when Christopher Bell totally spilled the beans that Chase Briscoe had signed with JGR just last year. Seriously, Joe Gibbs Racing is terrible at keeping secrets about things like this. Anyway, the signing of Edwards would officially be announced in August, and interestingly enough, Daniel Suarez and Eris would kind of be a packaged part of the deal, which would later lead to some interesting conspiracy theories about Edwards' sudden retirement. Those theories have been pretty solidly debunked at this point, especially by Edwards' own words in his recent interview on Dale Jr. Download, but they were still interesting. Actually, I made a really fun video a couple of years ago about what NASCAR might look like if Carl Edwards had stayed for just one more year. Because most NASCAR contracts seem to be for 3 years, I just assumed that there was 1 year left on his contract. If you'd like to check that out, I've put a link in the description. Up next, back in April of 2014, NASCAR actually met with Michelin, sparking talk about the possibility of them becoming the sport's tire supplier. The timing of this looked pretty suspicious because there had been major problems with Goodyear's tires the week before at Richmond. Michelin was already the supplier of tires for the NASCAR Euro Series, and it sounded like they were really just looking to get in on a more regional and grassroots level of NASCAR. Plus, Goodyear's exclusive contract was good through 2017. So the idea of Michelin coming in as either an exclusive supplier or an additional tire supplier for any of the top 3 national series was out of the question at this point. I had mentioned the idea of competing tire brands a long time ago, and it seemed like some people had some pretty strong feelings about whether or not it was a good idea, with Formula One's 2005 United States Grand Prix being pointed to as a reason why it was a bad idea. But the channel has grown a lot since then, and I'm curious about everyone's opinions today. Do you think that competing tire suppliers are a good idea for NASCAR? Let me know in the comments. Okay, we're going to wrap up with some rapid fire, but a quick note. Only about 15% of the channel's viewers are actually subscribers, and I'm trying really hard to make that number 20%. So if you can help me reach that number, then that would be awesome. Thank you so much for the support. Okay, rapid fire. There was talk that Sprint was going to be merging with T-Mobile, with T-Mobile being the surviving name, which would have given us the T-Mobile Cup Series, and very likely a lot of pink around the racetrack. The deal got called off in August, so we got to stick with yellow for a little while longer. Of course, T-Mobile would eventually acquire Sprint in the end, but not until after Sprint had left NASCAR. Sam Hornish Jr. was rumored to be going to the Wood brothers to drive the 21 car on a part-time schedule in 2015. The Wood brothers were looking for a new driver with the departure of Trevor Bayne. Obviously, they ended up better off with Ryan Blaney, but I think that Sam Hornish Jr. would have been an interesting fit. Of course, Sam Hornish Jr. was able to score a full-time ride with Richard Petty Motorsports, and actually, RPM was talking to other manufacturers, including, according to Richard Petty himself, Volkswagen. I talked about the Volkswagen rumors in pretty extensive detail in my video on weird NASCAR rumors from 2009. But when I was making that video, I really thought that those rumors went away after 2009. But they've come up 2 other times since then. I didn't realize how deep that rabbit hole really went. And finally, Parker Kligerman, who had recently lost his ride with the closure of Swan Racing, was apparently looking for an IndyCar ride and had a test session in an Indy Lights car. It would have been pretty odd seeing someone who's become so beloved in the NASCAR community go over to IndyCar. Anyway, that's what I've got for today. Please like and subscribe to help grow the channel. Also, feel free to comment and share with a friend. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.